Welcome to Bridge to Self, where we spotlight the stories of second and 1.5 generation Black Americans. I'm your host, Ben Arthur. I am solo for today's episode, and I wanted to talk about the difference between loving your cultural heritage as a second gen kid versus romanticizing about your cultural heritage as a second gen kid, and maybe where those lines can be blurred a bit. And this is something that I've kind of been thinking about a little bit recently. And for those of you out there listening who are also second gen like me, maybe this is something you've kind of noticed or you can relate to as well. A few weeks ago in Nashville, I got together with a friend of mine from Ghana. So he born and raised in Ghana and even got a degree in Ghana, but he came here for to kind of continue his education, build his life and whatnot. And so we were at a baseball game, and I was kind of explaining to him how, like, at some point I would like to have some roots there in terms of whether that's living in Ghana for portions of the year down the line, having property, kind of legacy play type stuff. I was explaining that to him, and I don't know, I thought his perspective was so interesting because, like, he was, like, completely against, like, going back home, and he actually said, like, the only thing he missed about Ghana was, like, his family and friends, and he basically explained to me how just the career advancement opportunities, the resources, things like that just aren't there in Ghana. And he actually talked about how just what he was making as a doctor. So he was a practicing medical doctor in Ghana, and he was saying, "Yeah, I what I was making, it would barely be minimum wage in the U.S." And I thought that was cap. Like I didn't believe him until I kind of did my own research, and with the help of ChatGPT, I kind of figured out that, yeah, if you're an entry level doctor in Ghana, so this is kind of average of all the different kinds of doctors, but so like under 5 years of experience, your monthly pay. So in Ghana, this is an important point. So in Ghana, their currency is the CD. And so this is accounting for exchange rates. The US dollar is obviously a lot stronger than the Ghana CD, but basically in US dollars, on average, an entry level doctor in Ghana will make between 500 and 1,000, $1,100 per month as a medical doctor. And then I kind of went a step above that. So like with experienced doctors, so those with 5+ years of experience, and it was modest for that as well, very modest by US standards. I mean, $2,000, 2,000 US dollars per month as an experienced doctor in Ghana. And so that just kind of blew my mind. That conversation I had with the friend in Nashville made me think a lot about the conversations I had with some of my cousin's friends a couple years ago, or I want to say about a year ago, at his wedding in Atlanta. So my cousin, just for context, like, he's was born and raised in Ghana, but moved to the US as an adult to, like, go to school and get started with his career and everything. And so I was a groomsman in his wedding, and the other groomsmen were a lot like my cousin in that they all were born and raised in Ghana, came to the US as adults to get their education and begin their careers. And a lot like my friend in Nashville, a lot of them were just talking about how they don't wanna go back, like, how there's really nothing there for them. Like, they talked about just the political greed and corruption that's there. It's well known how that's in pretty prevalent across Africa, but it's there in Ghana too. So they talked about that, and also just how the system doesn't really seem to work for young people. And I don't know, taking in everything they were saying and then what my friend in Nashville was saying just really jumped out to me, right? And made me think a lot more deeply about my perception of what Ghana is, because here are these young men just like me around my age who are from the country that my parents are from, who have more of a pessimistic view of what Ghana is compared to my more optimistic, maybe romanticized view of what Ghana is as a second gen Ghanaian. None of that is to say that they're completely right and I'm completely wrong. And like and even like in totality, it's just like 5, 6 Ghanaian men that I spoke to. By no means do they speak for every young man in Ghana, but just hearing their perspective, like and me wanting to establish my some roots there down the line, and them being so committed to not going back and establishing their roots here. I think what that really just told me about what's important, just for my perspective as a second gen Ghanaian, is to do my own homework, my own extensive homework about what Ghana is, and to really experience it in its totality, to really come to terms to the most accurate view of Ghana that I could possibly get. Because like just with those conversations with those guys, it's like it has me thinking a lot about my upbringing, and how even though I was raised in a Ghanaian home, it's really just I I got the Ghanaian taste at home, but like with an American lifestyle, right? Like I only got the bite-sized portion of what it really meant to be Ghanaian. The experiences of Ghanaian culture I got was just maybe strictly the positive stuff in terms of the food and the dance and the the music and the family and things like that. And whereas I didn't really experience everything else that actually comes with being a Ghanaian, and maybe not even thinking about like how close to every single family member I have that's from Ghana, like none of them actually went back to Ghana. Like I maybe have of one or two family members that actually were born and raised in Ghana, came to the US or to Europe, somewhere in the Western world, and actually went back to Ghana. Most of my family actually moved to America or Europe or whatever, and just kind of stayed there. And so like thinking more about kind of why that is. And so none of that is to say that they're not appreciative of their culture, that they're not proud of their culture, that they don't love Ghana. Like my dad has even talked extensively about retiring in Ghana and being able to move back, but just really understanding the full picture in a way that I never got as a kid, because I was only maybe shown a certain side of what Ghana is. Honestly, these recent conversations I've had have made me think about this TED talk I recently heard from this like second generation Asian woman. I don't remember which country in Asia her parents were from, but she was talking about how she was so excited that she was in college, and she was accepted into a study abroad program in the country where her parents were from, and she rushed kind of home, or to tell her parents over the phone about, look, I'm going to get to experience the homeland for myself. And she kind of explained how visibly shaken, like hurt, her parents were, just kind of physically and emotionally, about wanting to go where her parents had escaped to like get a better life in the US. And so I think that was a really I think that made me think a lot about that. And again, it's not that my family, that they had as a negative experience to that degree, right? But there is something to be said for, there is a reason why I was born in the US, and for a large portion of my family, like I said, establishing their roots in the US or in Europe, somewhere in the Western world, and how it's really on me to do the work. Like I saw a really beautiful side of Ghana just through my upbringing and what my parents taught me, and the food and the dance, and really learning to understand and appreciate where my ancestral roots are from, but how it's also on me to really understand the full totality of kind of what Ghana was, is, and kind of where it's going from a just from a research perspective and just from an experience perspective, being able to go to Ghana more and taking all that to form my own fully accurate, contextualized view of what Ghana is. And I think through that, my love for Ghana could grow even more. And maybe how it's not necessarily like a blind love type of thing, but through really understanding what Ghana is at a deeper level, I think that could enhance my own love for my roots and where my parents come from and everything like that. So that'll wrap it for this week's episode. That's just kind of something that was on my mind, just based on again some of these conversations I had. Maybe those of you listening who are also second generation can relate to as well. Maybe you didn't really think about it from that way, from that perspective, or maybe you have, but regardless, I just wanted to put that to words because I don't think anyone has really talked about that at length. And so I don't know, I just felt moved to kind of talk about that a bit. But that'll do it for this week's episode. You guys know the deal, right? Every other Wednesday at 5 p.m. Central Time is when you guys can expect new episodes. I appreciate the constant support, the love, the encouragement. Until next time, I'll see you guys soon. All right, peace out.